everyone! Today I'm going to share 4 tips for teachers of children who are deaf or hard of hearing. I also want to share some tips of what to look out for to identify a child that could possibly have a hearing loss. I'm so glad you're here today. My name is Emily. I have a bilateral, moderate to severe, congenital, sensorineural hearing loss. It means that I have a hearing loss of both ears. It's moderate to severe, which means I start hearing at the sound of a vacuum cleaner. I've had this since birth, and I want to share my experiences with you. I am so glad you're here. Please take a moment to like this video and share with me in the comments below of where you're watching this video from today. I know that people watch my videos from all across the United States and all across the world. I'd love to hear where you are from. I hope you stick around to the end of this video because if you do, I'm going to share 2 more resources that can be helpful to teachers and educators of the deaf and hard of hearing. Here we go. Here are 4 tips for teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing children. Number 1. Understand that you may be asked to come to IEP and or 504 meetings. IEP and 504 meetings have been mandated by various laws that have been passed since 1973 and 1975. These laws ensure that children with disabilities receive the help that they need in the classroom to be just as successful as their peers who do not have disabilities. These plans usually take place once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on what needs to happen, and they are different. A 504 and IEP plan are 2 different things. I'm going to share a link down below by the nonprofit organization Understood. They have an excellent video that explains the difference between the 2. But all you need to know on these 2 things is that if you are informed that you have a hard of hearing or a deaf student in your class, you will be attending a meeting, a 504 and or IEP meeting, with a parent, a counselor, district representatives, and whoever else needs to be involved to ensure that this student gets the help they need. The help set forth in these meetings could be anything from custom homework dates, custom test dates, equipment needed in the classroom, interpreters needed, and things like that. Due to these laws, typically the expenses are not covered by the parents, but the school and the school district themselves. The school should receive additional funds from the state to be able to cover these expenses and to create an equal learning environment for all students. The next thing to keep in mind is visuals. Because deaf and hard of hearing students don't have their ears, they rely heavily on visual cues. So it's really important that you pay attention to visuals in your classroom. And what I mean by this is pay attention to the fact that if you have a deaf or hard of hearing student, it will help them to be in the front of the room or to have their seating placed in an area where you are often talking and speaking with your face out. Be aware that any sound that you can help add visual cues to will greatly assist a deaf and hard of hearing child. You can help add visuals to sound in a variety of ways. For example, you can grab students' attention before talking. You can ensure that when you're talking, you do not face the whiteboard, but that you are always facing the students, particularly the student who is deaf or hard of hearing. This also includes writing down as much of material as you can. For example, writing diagrams or writing due dates on the board. Just any important information that you don't want someone to miss, be sure that it's written down so that the student can see that. Also, captionings for videos are extremely helpful. Captions are visual scripts of what's being said that can help a student be able to follow along in a video. Number 3, if you restructure group activities to be more friendly for the deaf and hard of hearing student or students in your class, this helps immensely. When I was little in elementary school and middle school and high school, it was always so hard for me when we did classroom group activities, particularly group activities in small groups with the rest of the class there. It got so loud and so noisy. I couldn't hear what my class was saying, I couldn't participate, and therefore I couldn't learn in those group environments. It made it very difficult for me. So a solution to this problem is that my group or a couple of groups can go out into the hallway of the classroom if possible and be able to work out there in a quieter environment. Another option is to just have the whole class work on the activity together or split the class into 2 groups so the groups are bigger but less people are talking all at once. In addition to this, also keep in mind that group activities like popcorn reading are very difficult for children. Popcorn reading is when one child will read in a book or a playwright and then call on another child to randomly start reading. As a deaf or hard of hearing student, this was extremely difficult for me because even though I was paying attention, I would get lost, I didn't know where they were, and I would just pray that no one called on me. There was one instance in a class where I had a friend that would cough and say where we were in the script or the book so that when it became my turn, I would be able bugs to just read it and figure out what was going on. I think everyone in the class understood what he was doing, but for me it was a lifesaver because it was always the worst to say like, I'm so sorry, I really don't know where we are. It's not that I can't pay attention, it's the fact that I just can't hear the last 8 students that read. So popcorn reading is really difficult. I'd say stay away from that. As a teacher, you can read it, or if a student is reading, have them stand up and read and make sure that you can see their mouth, because again, it's those visual cues that help the deaf and hard of hearing students. Number 4, and probably the most important resource, is utilize technology. The IEP and the 504 plans will probably help you understand what technology your school and your school district has available for this child or children, but understand that you as a teacher can utilize technology in your own classroom at no expense to you. Some of these apps or things that you can use include assistive learning devices. These should be covered by the school and the school district. This could be a real-time captioning system. So for example, a child will have an electronic device in front of them, and as you speak, it will transcribe what you are speaking right then and there. So it adds the visual element to the sound element for the child. Next, FM systems. Again, these would be covered under the IEP and 504 plan. What this is you would wear a microphone and the student would have a speaker, whether it would be in their hearing aids or on their desk. This speaker would amplify the sound, making it easier for a hard of hearing student to understand. There are also incredible devices such as Roger Mic that are like a pen, and that also is a microphone that can go straight to the student's hearing devices. Other forms of technology that you can use that you probably already have in your classroom include overheads, projectors, and like I said earlier, captions for videos. The whole overarching goal of this is, because the student is deaf and hard of hearing, consider any and all ways that you can make sound information become visual information. So there are those 4 tips. If you have any questions or comments about what I covered, please ask me in the comments below. I will just answer based on my own personal experiences. I am not a professional, I'm not an educator or an audiologist in any way, but I'm a student who's gone through this, through pre-K, elementary school, middle school, high school, and college. And all of my experiences are very different, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So another thing that I want to cover in this video is just a couple pointers for teachers in order to detect possible hearing losses in their students. So because you're a teacher, it is most likely that you will spend more waking hours with the school children than they will spend with their parents. So it's highly likely you may notice a hearing loss that parents will not notice. Ways to notice a hearing loss include the following. 1, if you have an electronic device or a TV or a video playing or sound playing and the student asks you to turn it up when it's already kind of loud, that's an indicator that maybe their ears aren't able to hear the volume as normal hearing people are. Next, simply not responding when you call on their name could imply that they probably don't hear you. This could, sometimes in a child this is hard to gauge because you're not sure if they're being unruly and not paying attention, but gauge them based on their behavior, and if they seem to sincerely just not hear you, then that may be an indicator of hearing loss. Next, if you notice the child watches other children closely and tries to mirror their expressions, or they're just a little delayed in their reactions, that is another indicator that they could have a hearing loss, because they understand that they're not hearing, so they again rely on the visual cues of their peers around them to be able to feel in touch and on cue. Other things include academic issues. This could mean not turning in homework in time, or realizing that a test was that day that they didn't know, or doing very badly on spelling tests. I struggled with all of these. There were days where I showed up to class and did not realize that something was due because I never heard that it was due. So writing due dates on the board can prevent this. Spelling tests were really difficult for me because the teacher would say the word and I thought I heard another word, and then I was like, wait, I didn't study this word. Did I study the wrong list? So then I was writing down words that didn't even exist on the spelling list for that week. It was a struggle, but I was glad that we figured out, oh, she's not hearing it right. And so we just had to find out that I had to have a separate meeting with my teacher, and we would just do the spelling test separately during recess. I was bummed I had to miss recess, but it helped me understand the words, and I was able to repeat the word back to my teacher after they said it and write it down. And then the last 2 things are difficulty paying attention. Students who cannot hear, they have a difficult time paying attention, just because when they can't hear, they don't feel involved, they just start thinking about other things. It's hard to pay attention. And then the last thing is speech and language issues. If you notice that the child is not saying things right, or their consonants are left off at the end of the words, or their vowels are jumbled, this could be because they're not hearing those phonemes properly, and this could be an indicator of hearing loss. If you notice it right off the bat, take a couple days to really gauge it and see if it is an issue, and then you can notify parents and then pull them in for parent-teacher conferences and just let them know. Know that some parents may be in denial of this kind of news. That's normal. Every parent wants their child to be perfect, but you as a teacher can do your best to help deaf and hard of hearing children. So there you have it. I hope those tips helped. I want to hear if they helped down in the comments below. I'm sure you have more questions for me, so please don't hesitate to ask them. I want to hear them in the comments below. And as I promised at the beginning, here are 2 resources online that you can use to find more resources. So for pre-K and kindergarten children, one of the best resources I have found is hearingfirst.org. Hearingfirst.org is really unique because they focus on listening in the spoken language, so the oral side of hearing loss, and helping children communicate orally, which is predominantly used in public mainstream schools. The next resource is successforkidswithhearingloss.com. This is an awesome resource, and they have a specific teacher and educator packet that you can choose to buy or download. I'll include the link in the description below. Again, they're all about children with hearing losses. They're always releasing excellent content for supporters and educators of children with deafness and hearing loss. I hope all of these resources have helped you today. As a teacher, you have such an amazing potential to bless the lives of all your students, and especially the students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Because when you do those little things to help the sounds become more visual, you will help them feel that extra little love that other people just don't understand, and it will mean the world to them. I have so many teachers that I look up to and love because they went the extra mile to help me in my education. They helped me fight against all odds to graduate with a bachelor's degree in advertising. So thank you, thank you, thank you to all my wonderful teachers, and thank you for being such an excellent educator by watching this video and trying to do your best. You are amazing. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. If you do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe down below, I hope to release more excellent content, and I'd love to hear if you have any other videos you want me to do for you. I want to hear it in the comments below. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll be in touch soon. Have a great day.